The signs are everywhere, and nobody inside the building seems to notice. The team's biggest defensive icon, Myles Garrett, is sending subtle messages, and even Richard Sherman has said it out loud. Maybe it's time for him to go. When a legend from another team starts saying what Cleveland fans have been thinking for years, you know something much deeper is broken. Today, we're diving into the identity crisis of the Cleveland Browns, the burnout of Myles Garrett, and why this might be the last chance for this franchise to prove it still has a soul. What's up, guys? Hit that like button, and let's get straight into it. No matter how hard the Browns try to hide it, the atmosphere inside that locker room is toxic. This team has talent. It has one of the most expensive defenses in the league. But when a player like Myles Garrett breaks the franchise record for sacks, and the team still loses by 19 points, the problem isn't performance anymore, it's culture. That's exactly what Richard Sherman pointed out. Myles Garrett has to be open to the idea of leaving Cleveland. They're not going to be contenders like this, and it's hard to argue with that. Garrett ranks third in total sacks since 2017. Over 90 in total, trailing only TJ Watt and Aaron Donald. But while those two play for winning programs, Garrett is trapped in a cycle of wasted seasons. Pro argument: he needs to leave if he ever wants to win. The math is brutal. Since Garrett's rookie year, the Browns have had just one winning season. 5 head coaches, 4 starting quarterbacks. Same chaos, different year. Back in 2020, the organization promised to build around him. 5 years later, what does he have? A massive contract, an exhausted defense, and an offense that still ranks among the bottom 10 in passing yards. Former Browns GM Michael Lombardi said it best: Cleveland isn't a team, it's a collection of departments trying to prove they're right. That internal division is what eats away at every bit of consistency they try to create. And here's a detail most people don't know: Garrett can restructure or request a trade after 2026, thanks to a specific clause in his contract that gives him leverage. So when reports say the Eagles would consider offering 3 first-round picks, that's not just social media talk, that's the market saying Cleveland doesn't deserve the player it has. Counter argument: leaving now could tarnish his legacy, but not everyone agrees with the idea of walking away. Garrett isn't just the best player on the roster, he's the face of the modern Cleveland Browns. He survived Hugh Jackson, Freddie Kitchens, and the Deshaun Watson mess. He's the only bridge between disaster and hope. Jake Trotter from ESPN Cleveland put it perfectly: Myles Garrett is the line between relevance and oblivion. If he leaves, this team goes right back to the darkness. And he's right. Garrett accounts for 35% of the team's total defensive pressure. Without him, Jim Schwartz's entire scheme falls apart. Joe Thomas spent over a decade losing, but was celebrated for his loyalty, and some fans expect Garrett to follow the same path. A little known fact: when the Carolina Panthers introduced the franchise identity player concept in 2015, Garrett was cited as an example of the kind of player who raises the team's brand more than the logo itself. That's how important he is, and why letting him go would be an earthquake for Cleveland. The internal conflict is brutal: loyalty versus ambition. Garrett has always preferred to let his play speak for itself, but when his frustration becomes visible enough for analysts like Sherman to voice it out loud, you know the emotional limit has been crossed. Sherman said one more thing that hit deep: the Browns aren't bad because of talent, they're bad because of direction. And maybe that's the real truth, because while the front office dreams of a shiny new stadium, the foundation of this franchise is crumbling from the inside out. And here's where the story becomes symbolic. While the locker room falls apart, the front office seems to be living on another planet. Instead of fixing the internal chaos or stabilizing the roster for players like Myles Garrett, their new priority is making the fans pay for a new stadium. Yeah, you heard that right. The Browns are exploring a plan that could charge fans up to $149,000 per seat, a scheme called a personal seat license, or PSL. Basically, it's paying for the right to pay again for your tickets. It's what the NFL calls the modern fan engagement model, but in Cleveland, it feels more like an insult, a cash grab disguised as progress. The new $2.4 billion stadium would be built in Brook Park, more than 10 miles from the current venue. It's supposed to be Ohio's first fully enclosed dome, seating about 67,000 people with expansion capacity to 75,000. But here is the kicker: the same loyal fans who've been watching losing seasons for 2 decades are the ones being asked to foot part of the bill. According to Daryl Reuter from 92.3 The Fan, the survey sent to fans listed prices ranging from $500 to $149,300 per seat. And of course, Browns fans exploded in anger. The Cleveland Browns Reddit thread was flooded with outrage, one post calling it the biggest insult since the team's return in 1999. Another fan wrote, "They want us to pay for a new stadium, but they can't even give us a team that plays with pride." And that's the connection, the exact reflection of what's happening to Myles Garrett. A man giving everything he has on the field, while management upstairs seems completely detached from what it means to wear brown and orange. While he's bleeding for the team, the executives are drawing up blueprints and counting premium seat profits. Historically, this never ends well. Back in 1995, the original Browns left for Baltimore after a similar stadium dispute, and that how the Ravens were born. They won a Super Bowl a few years later. Now, 30 years later, Cleveland seems to be repeating the same mistake, this time not losing the franchise, but its identity. The contrast couldn't be sharper. The front office dreams of a futuristic dome, while the current team can't find a stable quarterback, relies entirely on one defender, and treats its fan base like investors instead of family. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports said it bluntly: "The Browns are one of the most emotionally exhausted franchises in the NFL. Every time they think the future has arrived, they find a new way to self-destruct, and it's hard to argue." Because Cleveland now lives in two separate realities, one filled with PowerPoint promises and billion-dollar projections, and another made of sweat, frustration, and a locker room that's done pretending everything's fine. When fans realize the ownership cares more about selling seats than honoring the emblem on their helmets, what's left is disillusionment. And when even Myles Garrett, the symbol of strength and resilience for an entire generation, starts showing cracks, that's when you know the crisis is no longer technical, it's moral. And that's the real question now. What does it actually mean to be a Cleveland Brown today? Because from the outside, it looks like the pride of the franchise is being sold off seat by seat, invoice by invoice. But for those inside the building, like Myles Garrett, it's worse. It is watching your own effort become invisible in an organization that has forgotten what it means to truly compete. Garrett once said in a 2022 interview, "I don't want to be remembered just for my stats. I want to be remembered for changing this team's story." But how do you change a story when the franchise keeps rewriting the same tragedy? So now I'm turning this to you, the fans watching right now. If you were Myles Garrett, would you stay? Would you remain loyal to a franchise that seems comfortable with mediocrity, or go somewhere that still remembers what winning feels like? And tell me this, do you think the Browns' problem is the roster or the front office mindset? Because on paper, the talent is there, but the energy feels broken. And maybe the most important question of all is this: what's going to break first, the player's spirit or the fans' patience? Drop your thoughts down below. I want to read every take. And to all the Browns fans watching, be honest with me. Do you still believe this team can change? Or are we just watching another talented roster go down in flames like so many times before? The floor is yours. At the end of the day, what the Browns are losing isn't just games, it's purpose. While they draw blueprints and talk innovation, the team has forgotten the foundation of football, belonging to something bigger than yourself. Myles Garrett is the mirror of that confusion, a generational talent trapped in a franchise that no longer knows what it stands for. Maybe the new Brook Park Dome really does get built. Maybe the tickets sell out. But what good is a billion-dollar stadium if the heart of the franchise, the players and the fans, is collapsing from within? That's the real downfall of Cleveland. Not technical, but moral. If you made it this far, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we'll be tracking every twist in this Browns saga. And remember, teams can rebuild, contracts expire. But character, that's not something you can reconstruct with steel and glass.